There once lived a man whose name was Pahom. A poor peasant was he, tending fields and hoping for lands that'll make him the richest. He overheard his wife and her sister talking one morning. They spoke of land possession and hopeless wealth for the poor. Outraged, Pahom began to speak.
It is perfectly true. Busy are we from childhood, tilling Mother Earth. We peasants have no time to let any nonsense settle into our heads. Our only trouble is that we haven't enough land. If I had plenty of land, I shouldn't fear the devil himself.
And at that moment, the devil secretly appeared, ready to give Pahom a taste of his greed. There was a lady who lived near the village. She owned a large portion of land. Selling it, men sought to make deals. With only 100 rubles at hand, Pahom sold some animals, brought his sons to work, and borrowed money to attain a land. He had chosen a farm of 40 acres. Pahom began to tend his new fields by himself. All was good except for his neighbor's animals who kept trespassing and destroying his lands. Angry Pahom said,
I cannot go on overlooking it, or they will destroy all I have. They must be taught a lesson.
Pahom then began to find people. One normal day, a peasant was passing by. He said he came from the place of Volga. There, many people settled and joined the commune, where 25 acres were granted to each. Pahom said in response,
Why should I suffer in this narrow hole, if one can live so well elsewhere? I will sell my land and my homestead here, and with all the money I have, I will start afresh over there and get everything new. In this crowded place, one is always having trouble, but I first must go and find out all about it myself.
He then set off for Samara on a steamer. For 3 years again, all was well. But by the 3rd year, the peasants had overworked the land. Pahom grew angry and fell deeper into greed, so he decided to buy 1,300 more acres for 1,500 rubles from a peasant. As time went by, all was the same. Pahom still not satisfied with his land. One day, another man, a dealer, was passing by. He stopped at Pahom's to get feed for his horse. He said that he had come from the Bashkirs, where he bought 1,300 acres from 1,000 rubles. The dealer said,
All that one needs to do is to make friends with the chiefs. I gave away the 100 rubles worth of dressing gowns and carpets, besides a case of tea, and I gave wine to those who would drink it. And I got the land for less than 2 cents an acre. There is more land there than you can cover if you walked a year.
Pahom had bought a case of tea and other presents to offer, then set off to meet the Bashkirs. As the Bashkirs saw him approaching, they came to surround him. They brought him to their best tent on down cushions placed on a carpet and gave him tea and hummus to eat. Pahom says to them,
What pleases me best here is your land. Our land is crowded, and the soil is exhausted. But you have plenty of land, and it is good land. I never saw the like of it.
The Bashkirs then began to talk among themselves, discussing a plan in the absence of their chief. Immediately, Pahom had gotten up and spoke his situation to the chief. Listening, he responds,
Well, let it be so. Choose whatever piece of land you like. We have plenty of it.
Pahom then says,
How can I take as much as I like? You have much land, and I only want little. But I should like to be sure which bit is mine.
The chief again responds,
You are quite right. We will make it over to you. The price is 1,000 rubles a day. It is as much as you can go around on your feet in a day as yours, and the price is 1,000 rubles a day.
With that said, Pahom decided to start early the next morning. Throughout that night, Pahom lied in a feather bed. Sleepless, he stared up and thought about the land. He slowly began to doze off and dream a horrendous dream. Pahom immediately got up and heard laughing outside of his tent. He went out and saw the chief laughing and rolling on his side, but as Pahom neared him, he realized it was the dealer who told him about the Bashkirs. Pahom looked around in confusion. He looked back to ask, then suddenly saw the face of the peasant he had bought land from. Another second glance, it was no longer the peasant, but the devil himself with hooves and horns. Just one last time, Pahom looked a little closer, and finally saw a man lying there, a dead man, himself. The dream ended there, and Pahom awoke horror-struck. Pahom now got up and prepared for his journey. He had the chief and Bashkirs follow him to a hillock where he would begin his walk. The chief took off his cap and placed it on the ground and said,
"This will be your mark. Start from here and return again. All the land you go round shall be yours."
Pahom now took out his money and put it in the cap, then took off his coat and remained in a sleeveless undercoat. He began to walk in the coolness of dawn. Every 1,000 yards, he'd stop, dig a hole, and place a piece of turf one on another to make it more visible. Then he continued on. Slowly he began to quicken his pace. He kept glancing back to estimate his distance from the hillock. It was distinctly seen in the sunlight, and he concluded that he had already walked 3 miles. He thought to himself that it was time for breakfast, but realized it was too soon to turn, so he continued on, this time taking off his shoes and walking barefoot. Pahom continued on straight, still digging holes and glancing back at the hillock. Again he thought that he had finally gone far enough. He was now thirsty. After a drink, he turned sharply to the left and walked through high grasses. He looked up at the sun and saw it was noon. He took a rest, but still thought he was wasting time. He got up again and walked a long way in another direction. Suddenly, Pahom felt he had made the sides of his land too long and must make on shorter. Thus, he dug a hole and now headed straight back towards the hillock. He began to run. He ran and ran, beginning to panic breathlessly. He feared the worst. Though afraid of death, he could not stop. Pahom's heart pounded. The Bashkars were waving their arms and telling him to hurry. The chief's cap was now in sight. With all his remaining strength, he rushed, and just as he reached the hillock, he gave a yell. Just as he approaches closer and closer, he falls forward and reached the cap with his hands. Pahom's servants immediately came to him and tried to raise him, but there was no luck. He was a dead man. 6 feet from his head to his heels was all he needed.
Say hi.
Hi.
Say hi. Say hi.
Wearing a white shirt.
Okay, she's on the phone with Catherine because Catherine is always late. Look at that entrance.
So the beginning's gonna start.
Look at that entrance.
Okay, just stop before she. Okay, we're
Still
done.
walking like a supermodel. Cut. All right, Catherine, come out. Also, I brought a bat for protection. We're in a park.
Let me see. Is that your phone?
Yeah.
All they have to do is get a stick from the tree. I'm so confused.
Hey, Catherine, come here and reach this.
Jeez. Look at that re-entrance.
We got a bridge!
Wow.
Hiya! Hiya! Can I get a hiya? Hiya!
It's a wrap, guys.
Yay!
Shout out to my dirty socks, my crazy hair, my dirty pants. I'm gonna throw all these clothes away.
Shout out to Mrs. Rotolo.